defense is in high step touchdown.
Seems like there's a different hero every game.
Fans rush the field. It's a storm of crimson.
We have a chance to be a really good football team. We just have to keep getting better each week.
This is the U.S. Bank Cougar Coaches Show on the Washington State Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. U.S. Bank. Put your trust in a bank that's been focused on serving the people and businesses in Washington and all across the country since 1863. That's U.S. Bank, equal housing lender, member FDIC. Tonight's show is also brought to you by Northern Quest Resort and Casino. The post-game party never stops at Northern Quest with 24/7 gaming, over a dozen restaurants and lounges, luxury rooms, and more. Details at northernquest.com. By Zappos, the home for the Cougar Coaches Show. And by The Bookie. It's all here. It's all you. It's all WSU. Live from Zappos, alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach, here's the voice of the Cougars, Matt Chazanow.
We are live here at Zappos. It is that time of the week. It's great to be with you. It's the Cougs against Houston, the Houston Cougars. Washington State is up now to 20th in the AP poll, so they elevate 2 spots after the 59-17 victory over Northern Colorado. A credit to the Bears running back in the first half. He was really good. He had 100 yards rushing, and then Tracy Claeys and everybody really clamped it down, and he wasn't able to go anywhere. Milo Hall, he should be a pretty good back, you'd think, in the Big Sky this year. He did a really good job, and now the Cougs are 2-0. They had a 58-7 win over New Mexico State and a 59-17 win over Northern Colorado, and now a big game with national spotlight on the road and a short week, and thus we're here on a Wednesday, and so the Cougars head to take on the Cougars in Houston, Texas on the NFL surface, NRG Stadium, formerly Reliant Stadium, where the Houston Texans play in the NFL on Sundays. So NRG on Friday. This is actually one of 2 short week Friday games. Basically, the hardest thing you can have on a schedule is a short week road game. And, of course, the other one is the Apple Cup, which comes up last game of the year. So this is a really big test and a hard one inherently. And Houston's a good team. Last year they were 8-5 overall. They went to a bowl game and got blown away. They lost 70-14 to Army in a bowl game, had a head coaching change. Major Applewhite was let go, and now Dana Holgorsen is their head coach, and there'll be all kinds of yarns tales to be told here from Coach Leach with Dana Holgorsen. They go way back to Iowa Wesleyan, way back early on in Coach Leach's career, and we'll try to maybe dig some of those anecdotes up from Coach. Houston started its season actually against former Washington State defensive coordinator Alex Grinch, who's now the DC at Oklahoma. And it was sort of odd. I don't know if anybody was watching that game. It was odd to look at the sidelines and see Roy Manning and Alex Grinch and a lot of the former Washington State staff in Norman, Oklahoma. And that was an Oklahoma win 49-31. It was actually a pretty close game. Houston had some chances late in the back end of that game, and most recently, Houston played Prairie View A&M, which is located in Texas, and Houston won 37-17. So now it's their third game. This is a neutral site home game for them. It's a kind of a kickoff classic, as they're calling it, in NRG Stadium, and there's really a lot on the line here for this one for Washington State. Final non-conference game after this one. Kickoff time's been announced for UCLA. That's a 7:30 night kick against the Bruins in Martin Stadium, and that'll be with actually what you do get on the back end of this is an extra day for what it's worth, because you play on Friday, you get that Saturday back. It'll be super late. The flight comes straight back in and out of Lewiston for this one because the Pullman Airport's closed, so that you don't really get a full, true day, but you get a little bit of time on the back end of this short week. So what we're going to do is we're going to relive the Northern Colorado game. Anthony Gordon was spectacular. Again, he has now 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's completing 81% of his passes, nearly has 1,000 yards already through just 2 games. He has 884 yards, averaging second most in the nation. Number 1 in passing touchdowns, number 2 in passing yards per game at 442. He's been fantastic. We'll talk to Coach Leach also. I think everybody, as much as they're buzzing about the 20th, the number 20 ranking for the Cougs, is what Gardner Minshew did on Sunday for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, how about that? Not only is it difficult for a rookie quarterback to do anything in the NFL, he was 20 for 25, off the bench and has been thrust into the starting role now in Jacksonville because Nick Foles is injured and has an injured collarbone. So Nick Foles will be back, and that'll be interesting to see and what will happen with expectations and whatnot. But regardless of shelving all that, Gardner did great, and Cougar Nation couldn't be more proud and excited now. A lot of Jaguars jersey is probably being purchased in the state of Washington. All right, let's relive the game against Northern Colorado, 59-17. Mike Leach, by the way, I am told he is en route. He's off that Thursday night practice field with the youngsters, and he will be here momentarily. It is the Cougs against the Northern Colorado Bears. We'll take a break and come back, and I think Coach Leach will be here by then.
Northern Colorado.
Snap back, Gordon. He statues in the pocket, slings it over the middle, fingertip grab, touchdown. Washington State leads it 6-0 in the blink of an eye. Aesop Winston with a fingertipper over the middle. First and goal from the 4. Borghi motions out of the backfield to the left. Snap back, Gordon slings it left. Borghi catches in stride, touchdown. A 4-yard pass play to Max Borghi out of the backfield, and it's 13-7. Washington State retorts. Gordon in the shotgun, Borghi to his right, snap back Gordon, handoff to Borghi, shoulders down, rumbles forward, touchdown Max Borghi, his second of the first half, and the Cougars have a more comfortable margin, up 20-7. Here's a 20-yard chip shot for Blake Mazza from the right hashes. Snap is down, the hold is there, the kick with a tough angle is true, and a good job by Mazza. And now it's 24-10. The Cougars are on top by 2 touchdowns here. Snap back to Gordon, 3 to the left. Lob to the right, fade pattern. Winston over the shoulder, touchdown. A little delay, and then Gordon put it on the money. Aesop with the grab, and it's 30-10. Washington State scores on its first offensive possession of the third quarter.
We said we're going to come out a lot faster. We put a big emphasis on coming out hard in the third quarter. So, coming out strong in the third quarter is something we've really been focusing on. So it was great to come out and execute. First and goal from the 3. Snap back Gordon, handoff Borghi, has contact, moves the pads, turns the feet, touchdown. 3 yards up the middle. Borghi moves 292 pounds of nose tackle of Northern Colorado for the score. It's 37-10 Cougs. First and goal from the 5. It's McIntosh to the left of Gordon. Snap back, toss to the right. It is caught. Touchdown Arconato. Back of the end zone over the R of Cougars. He was over the back of the safety Harris, and the Cougs have opened it up. 44-10 with 4:19 left third quarter. Anthony Gordon's now thrown for 4 touchdowns. Been developing a connection with Arconato since our redshirt days, and seeing him, grind as a walk-on and earn a scholarship. It's real rewarding to see him have a great game like this, and I'm excited for him.
Snapback Tinsley, first and goal from the 4. Tosses it left on a slant. Martin, touchdown. 4-yard hookup to Tay Martin. Trey Tinsley with his first touchdown pass of the season, and it's 51-10 Cougs. Now Gabru takes a snap handoff here to McIntosh. Stutter step through one tackle. Oh, he busts it through at the 15-yard line, makes a cut at the 10, and works all the way to the end zone. A 32-yard scamper for Deion McIntosh. 58-17.
More from Zeppos after this on the Washington State Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. and businesses in Washington and all across the country since 1863. That's U.S. Bank, equal housing lender, member FDIC.
We are back here live at Zeppo's. It is the second segment of the show. Coach is en route. It's great to be with you. It's the Cougs against the Houston Cougars, and they do confirm here on their notes. So from the Houston Athletic Department to really lock this in, and we alluded to this last week, and this is really fun, and I did not realize this. The Houston Cougars are named specifically after the Washington State Cougars. So there was a coach, John R. Bender, and now he was a Coug, a Washington State Coug, from 1906 to 07, so just for 1 year, and then again for a couple of years, 1912 to 1914. Now, he left Washington State, went to Houston, and at the time, it turns out Houston was not it was like a club team. It wasn't a real formal program, and he just thought the Cougar name was great, and he took it and made it the Houston name. Now, their mascot's named Shasta, so like it's like Butch's cousin or child, or however you want to work that out. But that's the name of the mascot, or it was at the time, and I need to confirm if it still is today. But kind of a fun nugget there that you've got three Cougars in major college athletics, off the top of your head, BYU, of course, and then Washington State and Houston. And actually, Houston's is named on the front page of their notes here off of the Washington State Cougar. We'll probably stick, if it's Cougs on Friday, it's the Cougs, because I think for Coug fans, there's one Cougs, right? And then we'll roll with that. Anthony Gordon, I mentioned the percentage, but when you really say the numbers out loud, he's 60 of 74 passing in 2 games. Is incredible. Yeah. He has had 14 incompletions in 74 attempts. That's 81%. He's number 1 in pass efficiency. Coach is not a huge fan of trying to aggregate all of the numbers to find one great number, but the stuff's really impressive from Anthony Gordon. Again, the 9 touchdown passes tie him for the nation's lead, and he had the 15 straight completions to start game 1. If there was any doubt, he erased that right away against New Mexico State, and it's just super impressive what he's done. Now, on the flip side, Dana Holgorsen, who comes from the Mike Leach tree, started out in the air raid. It has evolved very far away from what Mike Leach does with the air raid system. Houston runs the ball a ton. In fact, they actually average 238 rushing yards a game. They're the nation's 26th best rushing team right now is Houston. So this is not an air raid system that Coach Leach uses. This is a coach who came from the air raid who's really doing his own thing. So they're 26th in the nation in rushing. They do it with 3-4 different guys. Primarily their running back Kyle Porter, but also the quarterback Derek King. And Derek King's really fast. He actually has rushed for 3 touchdowns this year. In fact, against Prairie View A&M, he had a 1-yard goal line rush. He just ran right up the middle. He's not a huge guy. He's listed at 5'11", 195, but he's really, really quick. May have been a little generous there with the 5'11", but he looks kind of like Khalil Tate, maybe a little bit smaller than Arizona's quarterback, which brings back some nightmarish memories of a game in Tucson a few years back where Tate had a monster game. And Derek King is averaging about 5 yards a carry, and he's rushed for 102 yards this year. He's completing 54% of his passes. Not incredible, not Anthony Gordon, not terrible. 54% of his passes, 306 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. As Coach Leach joins us here in Zeppo's after Thursday Night Football. And we'll throw a headset on. By the way, we do have some of your write-in questions here for Coach, and some are coming in on Twitter at @M_Chaz. So we will get those to Coach as we work through the show here. Coach, how you doing? How was practice today? How are the guys bouncing around on a short week, headed on the road here on this short week?
Oh, they're doing good, doing good. So it was quite a hurry up there at the beginning, and then the beginning of the week was hectic, and but, yeah, then once it got into a routine, it all went really good.
Puts more pressure on the coaches, right? Because you guys, right after the game on Saturday, you're really right after it. Not only do you lose a day because it's Friday kick instead of Saturday, but you lose a day to travel, which you'd lose anyway in a road game, but it does compound it, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. The biggest thing is early in the week, getting past the previous game and then getting on to the next one, because you have to get onto it right away and you have to practice that day.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit before we go into the Houston Cougars. I want to ask you about Northern Colorado. How did you feel the team played against the Bears, sort of your overall assessment of the last game on Saturday?
We went through stretches where I thought we played really good. I also thought that we weren't as consistent as we would have liked. We would have liked to have been more consistent. We were explosive. I would say that overall we were explosive but inconsistent. We got 4 turnovers. We marched down the field. Then we missed some opportunities. And the biggest thing is like everybody fights all the time, and you never end fighting, is consistency.
Sure. What do you think of some of the penalties that were called in that? I don't want to get you in trouble with any officials here. Here's what I want to ask you: Is there a for the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, the pointing and the throat slash, which he really didn't do a throat slash, but I get why he thought he did with the hand motion there, for what it's worth. Have they gone a little far with this? Do you think or is it appropriate and consistent and just is what it is now, or is it kind of taking fun away, or is it not in the right spirit of the game? What do you think?
Well, I don't have any comments whatsoever on the officiating, but with regard to celebration rules, I mean, we got to be careful and not trying to read somebody's mind and trying to assume what somebody thought. And then the other thing is I've thought they shouldn't have the celebration penalty. I mean, there should be one penalty, and it should, that's for coaches to decide what somebody does in the end zone. The only penalty should really be like if you hold the ball, refuse it to give it to somebody, throw it up in the stands, any of that stuff.
Time.
Yeah, then it should be delay a game. So it should be the only, if you quickly spike the ball, shouldn't be a penalty for that. If the penalty should be delay a game if you keep the ball and have some prolonged thing and you can't get the thing in order.
Right, makes total sense. Slows the whole facilitation of the game down. We've got some write-in questions for you here. This one's anonymous, but it is from somebody here in Zeppo's. Looking forward to hearing what class you may be teaching this year. Do you have a class on the agenda moving forward after Insurgent Warfare?
I don't have one right now, but people are, we're still talking about doing it. And,
cool.
May do it. I may do the Insurgent Warfare one again.
Very cool. That's awesome. Great fun. Just kind of rolling through here, and this is a topic we could maybe take some time on too. Do you have any insight to the Jaguars staff and system, and how do you think Gardner will do through the rest of this season?
Well, I think Gardner will have ups and downs like any rookie quarterback does. I think he'll get better as time goes on and get better and better. I think he's better than a number of quarterbacks playing in the NFL, but his upside's gigantic, and I think he'll keep getting better, and I think I think it's a great opportunity for him.
What a special Sunday for him, and how much fun was that to either get a report or see on TV or just get a sense on the phone or however you got the news, like, hey, Gardner's 20 for 25 for 275 and is playing great in Jacksonville right now.
Yeah, no, that was really an impressive debut, and it pretty much was his debut with regard to a real game, and so I thought it was impressive. And then, they may be tempted to spread it out a little more with to fit his strengths some. We'll see, but no, I wish him the very best, and we're all excited about the chance for him to start.
It's super fun and kind of makes you look at the league. The number 1 overall pick, the LA Rams QB, and Gardner. And then Luke's on the practice squad with the Jets, and I'm missing somebody, or all air raid guys now in the NFL.
Pat Mahomes is, and then also Baker Mayfield is, and there's probably a couple more.
Yeah, we're getting now just off our heads. That's a third of the league, or a quarter of the league, or whatever we just mentioned. It's pretty wild. It's reached that tipping point, and now that's what everybody's looking for. Air raid guys.
Yeah, and if you consider what Drew Brees did in college,
Yeah, it's really fun. Let's get in. This is a question from Jeff about Dana Holgerson. We'll get onto that one in just a moment. You've probably been asked a whole bunch about this week's game against Dana Holgerson, but you guys go way back. It's one thing to have had a coach on your staff for a little bit who maybe you go up against, but it must be pretty neat to go up against Dana Holgerson going way back to the Iowa Wesleyan days.
Well, I've known him since high school. The thing is all the fun expectation and thoughts of it are overshadowed by the fact that these plays happen very quickly, and you're out there on a sideline trying to, unfold what they're doing on offense and defense and special teams. So there's really not a lot of time for that. You say hi to each other before the game and say goodbye after the game, and then, maybe call or talk in between and hang out in the off season. But there's really not a lot of that, just because you don't have time for it,
Maybe it's one of those deals that's actually more fun, like 2 years later or 6 months, 7 months later, when you really do have more time to kind of decompress and maybe hang out wherever you may cross paths.
Yeah, maybe. But the other thing, I'll tell you what happens there, not to make this boring and not nearly as fun as everybody may hope. Everybody's on to other games, the next game, the next season, the next off season, the next spring, and then there's been a lot of games in between.
We've got questions rolling in here on Twitter, and I'm trying to keep track of them here. There was a new, I think new, but there was for sure new this year, a uniform combination. Fans love the uniforms and love the uniform reveal, which this year have been really fun videos on Twitter if you guys are following that. But Ed wants to ask you if you have any decision. We've kind of talked about this over the years, but do you have any decision around the team's uniform helmet selection? Is it a vote from the players? What kind of input is there?
I never decide it and deliberately don't. Part of it is there's so many combinations now that I don't care. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't care, and I don't remember what uniforms we wore last game. So I used to let kind of the team captains do it, and then, I used to let the seniors, and some seniors cared about, some didn't, some had ideas, some wanted, new socks or something. Then I let the team captains do it, and then they could make up their mind. Two would care and two could care less, or two would care and two could care less. And then now I have one team captain anyway. And then Bill Moose always liked selecting the uniform combinations, and so he did it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure who does it now. Pat might still do it.
I don't know that Pat does it. I think it might be one of the.
Maybe Milt does.
Might be Milt. Might be the equipment. Yeah, I'll have to confirm it. I'm not even really sure.
They try to have a variety of it. They try to have a variety. But I don't pay any attention to
that. Mark, who's a great Coug, and Mark is often up here from California here in Zeppos for our home games. He has got kind of a curveball for you. He headed to Houston. Of course, NASA's in Houston, and there's all kinds of space aeronautics stuff in Houston. Do you have a favorite space movie? Did you like the TV series Lost in Space? That's Mark B.
I watched the TV series Lost in Space. Can't say it was my favorite show. I watched it. I'd rather watch Leave It to Beaver than Lost in Space. But Lost in Space, I'd watch it though. It was kind of a transitional show to something else, and then which I can't remember what that was. And then favorite space movie. I wish I could say I was more of a bigger space guy. The one where what was it? That Apollo one that was probably 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, I think it was Apollo 13. I think is what it was.
Yeah, that was a good flick. Good.
Yeah, that was a good one. Mark, thank you for those questions. We always love your participation. Great, and we'll see you maybe next home game against UCLA. For the world's most refreshing beer, 21 means 21. Celebrate responsibly with Coors Light, Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. We are up against a break. We'll take it. We're live here at Zeppos with Coach Leach on a Wednesday, a rare Wednesday show here on this short week.
Bank. 1-866-268-4825. Live from Zeppo's alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach. Here's Matt Chazanow.
Great to be with you here on a Wednesday. It's Wednesday before heading to Houston tomorrow for a game against the Houston Cougars. And this game kind of feels like it's not a Power 5 league, but it kind of is now. UCF's ranked 17th in the country, and they've been so good. They actually host Stanford this week, and they're in this league, and Houston's in this league. And it's a different league, but Boise and Houston and UCF and some of these group of 5 teams that have been really good have been really good. You know, this Houston team just a few years ago was a double-digit win team. Last year they had a first-round draft pick on the defensive line. Ed Oliver, who was really good. This Houston team's been very good over the last few years.
Well, Houston's a great recruiting base, and there's a lot of speed there. And then I think that there are good teams in that league for sure. And and of course, the rest of football likes to argue they're not as good from top to bottom in that league as the Power Fives are. But despite all that, and regardless of all that, it sure would be fun to see what everybody could do if they had an expanded playoff system, and then those guys would get to be in an expanded playoff system, and they could tee it off, and you could sort out exactly how far everybody would go.
That's exactly what UCF would love, and Boise any one of these years, and even Houston a few years back. I mean, they were really good. I think it was 2015, and we'll have that all buttoned up once we get to Friday, but Houston has been really good over these years. Jennifer Delzer, who's a frequent listener, tweets in here and wants to know what you do to keep Oscar Dragicevic ready. Now, this may just be on Oscar, but what do you do to keep him crisp and ready and fresh? Because there haven't been a lot of punting. He's a really good punter, but you almost like want a really good punter, then you don't want to have to use him. Is there anything you kind of do with Oscar to keep him keep his mind right or anything like that?
Well, he typically stays pretty sharp because he's a real conscientious guy and works hard in practice. And then the other thing on the sideline, of course, you got all the nets and warm up stuff, and Oscar had probably the worst punt of his career, and then he had a typical Oscar punt, 54 yards, and Oscar can really punt the ball a long ways, which is going to come in incredibly handy as we continue down the road.
No, field position sometimes is make or break. Actually, both Oscar Dragicevic and Blake Mazza, both from Texas. Your kicking game is from Texas. Your punter's from Texas, and Blake Mazza's looked excellent. 4 for 4 from field goals and 7 for 7 extra point. Kicked a 50-yarder and looked pretty darn good.
Yeah, he got better and better in the off season. Mazza really had a good off season and then I guess when we got to camp, everybody was pretty impressed how much he'd improved.
Yeah, he really booted. That 50-yarder would have been good from way back. Anthony Gordon, again, I mean, shy of that one interception where he must have not seen the safety or something. He was on point again, wasn't he? He looked pretty sharp against Northern Colorado. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I thought Anthony played pretty well. I thought the first couple drives, I thought he played real well. I thought the third quarter he played good, and then as good as Anthony's played, he's only played 3 quarters in each of the last 2 games.
Yeah, that's amazing. When you see a guy playing that well, he only has 14 incompletions. He's thrown 74 passes. It's 81%. He's 9 touchdowns, but he had the one interception where it looked like he just threw it right at the defender. Is that when that happens and you're on the sideline, do you know, it was miscommunication with a wideout, or we've worked with Gordo on that, he needs to fix this, or is it, boy, that's puzzling and a head scratcher, and we need to talk about that on film because I don't know where that came from?
Well, I think he just didn't see him. I mean, he hit him right in the face, so for whatever reason, he didn't see him. So
yeah, right. I guess that's why I asked, because it's so easy for me to say. I'm just bird's eye view.
His marksmanship was too good for him to have seen him. I mean,
right. It's kind of the shocking thing. Hey, Max Borghi, 4 touchdowns. He hasn't had a ton of touches, but when he has had them, he's got 9.5 yards a carry. Max has been just fantastic, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he scored quite a bit too.
Yeah.
So Max is a really good player there. And then the other thing is he elevates everything. Just with regard to people having to keep track of him.
He has looks like when you watch him run, he's got these short, choppy steps. He's moving so fast, and he's in balance. And Alex was telling me in the booth how key he's got that lower pad level. He was telling me so fundamentally, he always falls forward, and he does have a unique style to him. Is that fair to say? Kind of unique running style?
Well, he plays real low to the ground, which is good. Then the other thing, Max is one of the fastest guys on the team. And then the other thing is a lot of times those guys that are kind of built, thick and low center of gravity like Max don't always have great hips, but he's got really good hips. And so he's elusive on top of all that. He can finish with power. He's elusive and can make people miss. And then of course, the thing that surprised everybody, because he hadn't caught a lot of balls in high school, and the day he walked through the door, he could catch the ball well. Yeah,
he's got 5 catches. He has 1 receiving touchdown, and back end of the ball game, maybe a question was answered. Maybe it's still ongoing and kind of forever will be. But Deion McIntosh had a 32-yard touchdown run, and I think folks have kind of been wondering, who's going to be a guy to spell Max, and will there be one consistent guy? And over the years, it's been, be it Gerard or James to Jamal or Max to James, and maybe is Deion that guy after that run where he kind of burst out? Is that a settled thing or evolving still?
No, it's evolving, but he's getting in more and more of a rhythm. He wasn't here for very long, but he's getting in more of a rhythm and is playing. Is getting better and better, and so. And he'll play more this week too.
Yeah, he was explosive on that last run there. That 32-yarder kind of burst right through the defense.
He sees the field pretty well. He keeps his shoulders square to the line of scrimmage, so he can see to either side. He doesn't just turn and run to the sideline.
Brandon Arconato is leading the Cougars in receptions. 14 receptions for Arconato, 193 yards. Leading the team in receptions and yards actually is Brandon Arconato. And I'll be darned if folks may not have known Brandon Arconato's name 2-3 years ago, and now they certainly do. Is this evolution by Arconato? And I've heard the guys call him Arco. Is this evolution a surprise at all to you? Has he surpassed expectations at all?
Well, I would say he came as a walk-on. He came here as a walk-on, and he's gotten better and better. Part of it he grew, which that helped definitely. So he got bigger, and then he's had several great seasons in the off seasons where, lifting and running and all that. And then, and then obviously now he's on scholarship, and he's just continued to get better.
Really good. And Travell Harris and Renard Bell and even Cassidy Woods. I mean, the inside receivers here, this is so deep. There are just so many guys to throw the ball to, and kind of each with different skill sets too. Is that fair to say? I mean, Cassidy's really big. Renard and Travell are super shifty. Travell's a burner. He can really get vertical on. He can. He's really fast.
Yeah, Travell's fast. Gets yards after the catch, and and then it's huge in special teams. He's on every special team, and then Cassidy's a big target, and as he learns how to work and go full speed every play, he's going to get better and better too.
How's the O-line been?
Getting better. I think getting better. I think they've done a lot of good things, and then just kind of synchronizing everybody's the big thing. But we have big bodies. We're one of the bigger ones, and probably one of the more athletic offensive lines that we've had since I've been here.
I don't know how much you are able to even look at a Pac-12 scoreboard other than vaguely, maybe a cursory glance. Super late after a long lightning delay. Cal beat Washington, kind of shifted the north around a little bit. So, just some applause here in Zeppos. A question here for you from a gentleman here. This guy has Husky friends, thinks that they only lost because of a lightning delay. What advice would you give to those people?
Well, I don't think they only lost because of a lightning delay. I forget where it was.
It was in Seattle, I think.
Well, they were at home. That's a little better than being on the road, probably.
Yeah.
And then, anyway, no, both teams were out there, and both teams, both defenses were pretty familiar with one another, and it was a battle. I mean, it was a real battle. Like people like pitching duels and defensive battles. That was one to watch, and I didn't see all of it, but they teed off on one another.
And that's 2 years in a row now. Cal has beaten Washington in a tight one, and we know that Cal's defense is really good. Justin Wilcox has a really good defense there in Berkeley, and that'll be a hard game at those guys in Berkeley every time, isn't it?
Well, they were really good last year too. You could see that coming. They were a really good defense last year. They were one of the best in the conference last year.
Post-game party never stops at Northern Quest with 24/7 gaming, over a dozen restaurants and lounges, luxury rooms, and more. Details at northernquest.com. We'll take a break. We're up against it. We're live here with Coach at Zeppos.
Now, back to the show.
We are live here at Zeppos. We're talking football, talking all kinds of things here with Coach Leach. As always, it's a rare Wednesday show because it's a short week road game. It is confirmed, by the way, and I mentioned this off the top when you were en route from the practice field. The Houston Cougar mascot, and this is according to Houston, is named after the Washington State Cougar. So this is about 100 years ago now. This was they were a club team. And John R. Bender, who's a former Cougar head coach, left. Now, mind you, this guy's a character. So John R. Bender is a great Google and a great little bar bet for you and your friends. He was a head football, basketball, and baseball coach at like all these different schools, including St. Louis, and had to do with naming their mascot. Anyway, he is responsible for the Cougars of Houston being related to the Washington State Cougars. Oh, we got to get coaches. There we go.
Did he name them all the Cougars?
No, I don't think he did. He didn't just. He wasn't like the Johnny Appleseed of Cougars. I think he was responsible for the Billiken of St. Louis. I don't hold me to that unless we play them in hoops, in which case we'll nail it down. But yeah, the Houston Cougar, and again at the time it was named Shasta. I don't know if it still is. Like Mount Shasta, I guess. I don't know why, but
I was born right by Mount Shasta in Susanville, California.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So Shasta. Yeah. How about that? Well, Anything we can do to help down there at Houston.
Yeah, sure, yeah, right. So there you go. That's why they are the Cougars. We are going to get into Houston in just a little bit. What I need to do is make this a short segment because we've got a couple breaks left. We went long before, so we're going to take another break real quick. We'll come back and we'll talk about Dana Holgorsen and the Houston Cougars next. We're live here at Zeppo.
Welcome back to the show.
Yeah.
Time now to look ahead at this week's game with the Coors Light Opponent Preview. Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
We are back here live at Zeppo's, and we can dive in now more specifically to the Houston Cougars as we're live here at Zeppo's with Coach Leach. And Coach, this is a 1-1 football team with one loss to Oklahoma, 49-31, a score that may not be indicative of how close that game was. They won 8 games last year. And now here they are with Dana Holgorsen, the former West Virginia coach, longtime West Virginia coach, as their head coach. And, of course, you guys go way back. What have you seen when you look at film of this Houston Cougar team that kind of jumps out at you?
Well, they run it more than they throw it. Some of that has to do with their quarterback because they're incorporating some quarterback run game in there, and some of that probably to play to his strengths. They have quite a bit of speed out there at a number of positions, including the quarterback, who's a very quick guy. And then they got the kind of an active O-line. I don't know what to think of them exactly. But the biggest thing that, you'll be watching them play, and all of a sudden everything's one speed, and then there'll be a player or two on there, like they got a really fast receiver. There'll be a player or two on there, and then all of a sudden they got a couple guys that are a whole different speed than everybody else.
Yeah, they do have some athletes. To hammer the point home and get specific, it's Dana Holgorsen from the air raid tree, from the Mike Leach coaching tree, but it's 54 pass attempts this year, 84 rushing attempts. So they're running a lot more than they are passing, and I guess slowly over time. Have you ever talked to Dana about how he's kind of evolved in his scheme? Because he did run a lot at West Virginia also, didn't he?
Well, they've experimented. Yeah, they did. At the end at West Virginia, they ran it most of the time. They've done a couple things. Some of it is kind of a play-action scheme deal. Some of it's kind of incorporating the quarterback run. Other things, sometimes they'll use the clock. and try to get their defense to play as few snaps as possible, and then try to make the thing come down to just a few drives where obviously they're betting on themselves.
Sure. So Derek King is really sort of the wild card here. He's the queen on the chessboard because he can really do a lot. He will throw the ball and put some good velocity on it, won't he? But he's also super mobile, like you said. He'll run it.
Yeah, he's mobile, and he's got a pretty strong arm.
He's rushed. He's leading them. I should say he's second in rushing, but he has 21 attempts, and he's averaging 50 rushing yards a game. That's not by accident. That's part of the scheme. That's part of what their intention is, isn't it?
Well, I would say about half of those are broken plays, and maybe a third, and then the other half, 2/3, is designed.
How much more does this feel like what Rich Rodriguez used to do than it does? And by the way, Rich Rodriguez is at Ole Miss now. But how much does it feel like what Rich Rodriguez used to do versus what Lincoln Riley or some of the Neil Brown, some of the other air raid coaches who are really throwing the ball a lot more?
It's almost sort of halfway in between. It's because they're more option.
Right.
Rich is more of an option guy, and then no, they'll do the quarterback run game stuff. Then play action off of it and that type of thing.
It's interesting. So their leading rusher weighs 210 pounds. He's a big guy, and then their backup running back, who plays quite a bit, is at 195, 5'8", and he's pretty spry. Defensively, they run like 10, 11 guys on their D-line, don't they? They have a ton of guys that they play trying to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, they try to keep them all fresh all the time.
Yeah, they have two coming back from injury. Two of them made their debut last game. Isaiah Chambers is one. He was a player who's supposed to be of impact, preseason all AAC, and then Leroy Godfrey. Those would be two names if you're into the weeds here on Houston. They haven't played much of last year or much of this year, but they may play quite a bit against the Washington State Cougars because they're supposed to be two of their best players. They've just been out with injury on the defensive line. They're pretty deep is what I'm getting at. They've got a lot.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, we may see those guys.
Yeah, leading tackler is in the secondary, Grant Stewart, who's listed as a nickel, but he kind of runs all around, doesn't he? Sort of a rover, if you will.
Yeah, nickels find their way around into a lot of plays, whether you throw it or run it, because they're moving the guy around, and sometimes he blitzes, sometimes he doesn't, and yeah. Kind of a lot like we do with Skylar Thomas.
Yeah, Stewart has 22 tackles. Their next leader has 9. So this guy is really flying all around the field. And he had an O-lineman from Prairie View A&M jump on top of him after a play, and he made sure to tell that O-lineman in probably some very kind words that he did not appreciate the leap on his back after that play. I noticed on film. That was one moment for Stewart.
I can't say I saw that, but yeah, O-line like to mash stuff.
Hey, we have one more break, and then our final segment coming up next. That's our. Oh, before I take it, Coach, I want to ask you this. Jeff here in Zeppos wants to know if you've got a good one that you could share, an embarrassing Dana Holgerson story. Do you have a good Dana Holgerson story from the film room back in Lubbock, or something that Dana did that's worth sharing? That kind of jumps off at the top of your head.
I really don't. I almost need a subject or a topic, but he. Yeah, I've got a lot of them. I've got a lot of them, and they go back decades. And there's so many, it's kind of hard to pare it down.
Sure.
Yeah.
What was he like in the film? Does he like to talk? Is he loquacious? Is he inquisitive? Is he quiet? What's he like on staff? What's his personality like?
Kind of both. He's definitely a student of the game. Carefully studies the game, and very sharp. So always had a good head for football, and is a guy that's very committed to it. Some guys. After they've been in the profession for a while, stick with it just because it's an easy profession or they're in it or they like wearing the sweater. I mean, he's in the trenches on this thing and is very dedicated as far as studying the game and coaching the game.
Did you know early on as a player and early on when he was on your staff way back that you thought this is going to be a head football coach one day? He's really good at this.
I didn't know about that, but I thought he would coach.
Sure. It's Cougs against the Cougs. Washington State at Houston. We do need to take that break. We'll come back live here at Zeppo's. Final segment coming up next.
a bank that's been focused on serving the people and businesses in Washington and all across the country since 1863. That's U.S. Bank, equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Back here live at Zeppo's. We are live here with Coach. This is our final segment. We've really just got a little bit of time left. One of our viewers, because we are streaming live, wants to know what kind of tea you're drinking, Coach, that you're interested in.
I drink green tea. This is China green tips, and then which is kind of my mainstay. And I don't like the mint-tasted green teas very much. And then, they give you this pile of tea. People give you a pile of tea. Here's a pile of tea. And then I'll sift through it. And if I need caffeine, then I get Earl Grey, which I don't have any. And then this is green ginger. They just happen to have green ginger, and that sounded good, so I threw that one in there too.
There you go, green tea. Thank you very much for that question. That's Spades Trades. Hey, thanks to everybody who came here to Zeppo's. Great to see you. Thanks to Jerry Kylo, who gets us on the air. Jared Prengruber does such a good job behind the scenes, and Mike Morabito's back in the studios, does a great job. We will be live from Houston tomorrow, Friday, because it's a Friday kick. We'll be live from Houston 4 o'clock. It's a 4 o'clock airtime, and it's a 6:15 Pacific kick time from NRG. Thanks so much. Go Cougs.